Well, praise the Lord, everybody. So glad you are joining us for worship. Thank God for our music department and our praise and our worship team. And this is the day the Lord has made. We'll rejoice and we will be glad in it. Excited to be able to minister today. And so would you grab your Bible, turn with me to Joshua chapter 3. While you're turning to Joshua chapter 3, would you let us know where you're worshiping from? And just want to celebrate all of you on this wonderful Lord's Day. So come on, let's go to the Lord in prayer. And then we're going to spend some time together in Joshua chapter 3. Let's talk to the Lord. Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. From everlasting to everlasting, you are God. Thank you for this day of worship. Thank you for loving us, for caring for us, for sending your son Jesus to die for us. Thank you for the power of resurrection. Thank you for the ability to worship you, even from our homes, our cars. Thank you for our family, and I pray now, God, your choice and assorted blessings upon us as we minister your word today. I pray that you would heal and deliver. I pray that you would save for your name's sake. I pray, God, that you would heal today, that you would draw people closer today. I pray, God, that there might be restoration of relationships. I pray, God, that you might awaken, quicken something in us, God, to do great things in your name. I pray for churches open in your name. I pray for other pastors that are proclaiming your word. And I pray now, Lord, that you would speak. For we, your children, are listening. In Jesus' name, amen. Joshua chapter 3, I'm reading from the English Standard Version of the text, and we find these words recorded. And then Joshua rose early in the morning. They set out from Shittim. They came to the Jordan, he and all the people of Israel, and lodged there before they passed over. At the end of 3 days, the officers went through the camp and commanded the people, as soon as you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God being carried by the Levitical priest, then you shall set out from your place and follow it. Yet there shall be a distance between you and it, about 2,000 cubits in length. Do not come near it, in order that you may know the way you shall go, for you have not passed this way before. I'm coming back to that. And then Joshua said to the people, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. And Joshua said to the priests, take up the ark of the covenant, pass on before the people. So they took up the ark of the covenant and went before the people. Verse 7. The Lord said to Joshua, today I will begin to exalt you in the sight of all Israel, that they may know that as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. And as for you, command the priests who bear the ark of the covenant, when you come to the brink of the waters of Jordan, you shall stand still in the Jordan. And Joshua said to the people of Israel, come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. And Joshua said, here is how you shall know that the living God is among you, that he will without fail drive from before you the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Hivites, the Perizzites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, and the Jebusites. Behold, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth is passing over before you into the Jordan. Now, therefore, take 12 men from the tribes of Israel, from each tribe a man. And when the soles of the feet of the priests bearing the ark of the Lord of all the earth, shall rest in the waters of the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan shall be cut off from flowing, and the waters coming down from above shall stand in one heap. So when the people set out from their tents to pass over the Jordan with the priests bearing the ark of the covenant before the people, and as soon as those bearing the ark had come as far as the Jordan, and the feet of the priests bearing the ark were dipped in the brink of the water, Now the Jordan overflows all its banks throughout the time of harvest. The waters coming down from above stood and rose up in a heap very far away at Adam, the city that is beside Zarethan. We just stop right there. Y'all, I want to preach this Lord's Day on the subject, by faith, I'm crossing this river. Would you type that in? Would you say that to yourself? By faith, I'm crossing this river. Metaphorically speaking, life is filled with rivers that need crossing. When I say life is filled with rivers that need crossing, I mean that life is filled with complexity. Life is filled with impossibility. Life is filled with heavy lifts. Life is filled with decisions and moments where we seem to be above our own heads. And the truth of the matter is, sometimes these rivers that need crossing are there because of nothing we've done wrong. Sometimes it's there because of a breakup of a relationship that you just knew was going to last for a lifetime. Sometimes those uncrossable rivers show up in the form of our facing a challenge where there seems to be no apparent solution. Sometimes it's my attempt to reach a rebellious child. Sometimes it's a financial setback that I had no possible way of foreseeing. Sometimes that river that I need crossing is in the form of a friend who stabs me in the back, or in the form of a loss of a job, or in the form of a sudden health crisis. Sometimes it's watching your parents grow older with less mobility. And sometimes, since I just had a birthday, sometimes it's experiencing the effects of aging yourself. The bottom line is we all have rivers that need crossing. The chapter before us, chapter 3 of Joshua, is a chapter that is about the wilderness being ended. Ooh, somebody say the wilderness being ended. Chapter 3 shows us the wilderness being ended. And watch this, it shows me about God performing a miracle. This chapter is about God doing, somebody say this chapter. This chapter is about God doing what he has never done before. This chapter is about God moving in a way he has never moved before. See, whether or not you realize it, you're in the chapter. If you're worshiping with somebody at home, tell them you're in this chapter. What do you mean I'm in Joshua chapter 3? You're in the chapter of your life where God is going to do the impossible. You're in the chapter of your life where God is about to end your wilderness. You're in the chapter of your life where God is about to do, watch this, what he has never done before. How many of us would like God to move in a way that he's never moved before? How many of us would like God to do something in a way he has never done before? And I speak over our congregation today, by faith, you are going to cross that river. Chapter 3 begins with the children of Israel on the banks of the river Jordan. Behind them is the land of the wilderness, that land where they have wandered for 40 years. On the other side of the river Jordan is the land of Canaan, the land that God has promised them. And I'm here to tell somebody that God is going to perform something amazing in your life. I think too many times, y'all, we want Canaan, but we don't want to go through the other steps required to get to Canaan. We have to remember that when we begin to study how God has moved in the life of the children of Israel, there are lots of other places in the history of their geography. We find them in Egypt. We find them at the Red Sea. We find them in the wilderness. We find them at Jordan. And then finally, we're going to find them in Canaan. When we read these things in the Old Testament, we're not just reading, y'all, grab this, some dry, old, ancient history. No, that's not what this is. Well, what we're reading here is an understanding that what God did for the children of Israel in the Old Testament is teaching us what God can do in my life today. Somebody ought to be encouraged about this, that if God could do it for them then God can do it for me now. Good Lord, I feel like running around somebody's living room with you. I'm going to say it one more time. If God did it for them then God can do it for me now. I don't know who I'm talking to this morning, but I'm talking to people that need to be encouraged that the same God that moved thousands of years ago is the same God that's moving right now. The same God that moved a new way then is the same God that's moving a new way now. We've got to be reminded that this is not some story that we are distracted and detached from. This is a story reminding us that God is still in the business of helping people by faith cross rivers. Y'all, there are lots of different people worshiping today, from different states and different cities on different platforms. And in the midst of that worshiping, we all can, if we're not careful, walk out our Christianity in a different way. There are some Christians, I hate to say this to you, but there are really three kinds of folk here today. One kind of person that's here today is just folk that are lost. You're unsaved. And if you're listening to me without a personal relationship with the Lord Jesus, before today is over, you're going to have an opportunity to receive that free gift of salvation. And so there are people here that are lost, but there are people here that are saved. And those of us who are saved are divided in two categories. Some of us are winners and some of us are losers. Some of us are conquering, and some of us are being conquered. Some of us are overcoming, and others of us are being overcome. And as I minister on this e-campus today, I want us to be reminded, y'all, that as we are in the room today, that God doesn't want me just saved. He wants me saved and winning. He doesn't want me saved and defeated. He wants me saved and victorious. Either I'm going to be a wilderness Christian or I'm going to be a Canaan Christian. And as we walk through the text today, I want you to understand that there is a spiritual significance in crossing over the Jordan. Have you ever crossed your Jordan as a Christian? Have you ever lived the experience like the children of Israel are doing, when they turn their back on their wilderness and they set their face toward the land of Canaan and cross over the Jordan? Understand the miracle that is before us. Y'all, this is them not just facing waters. It's them facing rivers of difficulty. Who am I preaching to? That even as you sit in your living room or in your entertainment room or in your bedroom, even as you minister and receive the word where you are, who am I speaking to in the midst of looking at a river of difficulty? Y'all, there are some rivers of doubt for some of you that I'm ministering to. Some of us are going through rivers of weakness. Some of us are facing rivers of fear. And I'm here to encourage us, y'all, that the God we serve by faith can help us cross that river. I think too often when we look at this text in Joshua chapter 3, oh boy, we underestimate the challenge that the river presented them. We get a glimpse of how the river presents a challenge to them in verse number 15. Because in verse number 15, there is a parenthetical comment. It's almost as if it is there incidental, but the reality of it is there to help us properly assess their situation. In verse number 15, it says something to the effect that the Jordan overflows all its banks throughout the time of harvest. Pastor Galia, why does that matter? It matters because it was telling us that this was not just some babbling brook to paddle over. This was a fast-flowing, swirling flood of water. This is water that's 10 or 12 feet deep because it was at harvest season, and they could not swim through this water. They could not build a raft to go through this water. They could not engineer or excavate any subterranean passageway to get through this water. The whole nation, wives, children, animals, baggage, all of them are on the move, and the only way they're going to cross it, watch this somebody, is by faith. And I don't know who I'm talking to today. You're iffy about church, and the only way you're going to be all right is by faith. You don't know about your marriage, but the only way you're going to be all right is by faith. And God is telling me to minister to the house today to tell you that if you hold on by faith, you can cross the river. All right, Pastor. All right, Pastor. If by faith I can cross the river, tell me what's required of me. I'm glad you asked. I hope you're taking notes. Here's the first thing the text is teaching. The first thing the text is teaching is that faith requires activity. Preach, Pastor. Faith requires activity. Nudge somebody, elbow somebody if you're worshiping around somebody, and tell them it's time for you to get started. Too many times we claim faith, but we're not moving. Too many times we claim faith, but we're not acting. We cannot keep leaving tomorrow what I should do today. God is telling us it's time for me to stop talking about it and start doing it. Stop talking about getting in shape. Stop talking about losing weight. Stop talking about getting out of my debt. Stop talking about getting my mental health together. Time is here today to stop talking about it and start doing. Have you ever stopped to think that God is waiting for you to start? See, I think we pray about it, and we should pray about it. We're asking God to move, and God can move. And God is saying, but I'm going to do a work. I need you to get this. I'm going to do a work in the river, but I'm not going to do it while you're just looking at the water. And some of you are just looking at the water, thinking if I look at it long enough, it's going to go away. Bruh, sis, I don't care how long you looking at that utility bill, it needs to be paid. However long you're looking at things that you can look at the refrigerator all you want. The food is not going to jump out of the refrigerator, walk across the kitchen, jump on the stove, and cook itself. The laundry is not going to just jump out of the hamper, walk across the room, and jump in the washer and wash itself. We've got to do something. The waters, watch this, I want you to get this. The waters stopped only when the feet of the priest touched the water. Whew, I hope you read it with me. He says, I want you to get there and I want you to put your feet in the water. And once you put your feet in the water, see, you need faith to put your feet in the water. Who am I talking to? I think I want to join Word Tabernacle, but it's such a big church. Come on, baby. By faith, put your feet in the water. I think I want to jump out and start that ministry, but you got to put your feet in the water. I think I'm going to start that business. Well, go ahead and put your feet in the water. Y'all, the water is only going to stop by you doing something. I want you to receive this. It is not when things are often easiest that God calls us to start. But oftentimes, God calls us to start when things are hardest. Please grab the activity of the text. Everybody say the activity of the text. Grab the activity of the text. As you and I start looking at the activity of the text, we start to see some things. Well, Pastor, what do we start to see? The priests are bearing the weight of the ark on their shoulders. The water is at flood levels, and it is with the weight that they are told to put their feet in the water, which is the natural would only make the journey more difficult. But in faith, I'm going to say it one more time. They are not told to put their feet in the water and then grab the ark. They are told to bear the full weight of the ark and then put your feet in the water. because the natural would say that's more difficult. But by faith, God is saying, I'm going to call you to do the more difficult thing because I want to see if you can operate in your activity with faith. Let me say this to somebody that I hope it'll encourage you. It is better to fail attempting than succeeding in not trying. God is calling us, y'all. He's calling us to let us know that I would rather fail in my activity than to succeed in my complacency. Ooh, that's a good word, Pastor. One more time. I would rather fail in my activity than to succeed in my complacency. See, it is faith. Let me teach you about faith real quick. Faith is not only believing in spite of evidence, but faith is also obeying in spite of consequence. One more time. Faith is believing in spite of. Somebody type that in spite of. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I'm not silly. I'm not naive. I'm not unaware. I see what the evidence says. I see that this is against me. I see that this is not working for me. I see that it's against the odds, but my faith says I'm believing in spite of all that. Is there anybody worshiping with me, listening to me preach today, that have I got it in spite of testimony? I believe God in spite of the evidence. They said I wouldn't be able to go back to school because I'm too busy taking care of my family. They said I would never be able to pay for it. They said I would never be able to get my own house or my own car. But faith was believing in spite of the evidence. And faith is believing, or faith is obeying in spite of the consequence. I might go down, but I'm going to try. It may not work out like I thought, but I'm going to give it everything I have. Y'all, first of all, we have to recognize that faith requires activity. Don't know who I'm preaching to, but God is saying to us, it's time for you to get moving. It's time for you to start acting. It's time for you to start having enough faith that it will drive you to activity. But there's a second thing the text teaches us. Not only is faith about activity, but watch this. Number two, the text is teaching us that faith results in adjustments. Faith results in adjustments. God tells them, watch this, watch the adjustment. Pastor Gail, where is the adjustment in this text? He says, at the end of 3 days, the officers went through the camp, commanded the people, watch the adjustment, watch the adjustment, watch the adjustment. As soon as you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord. Y'all understand something. This is an adjustment for them. They've been used to seeing a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Now God is saying, as soon as you see the ark of the covenant, and I want you to get this, because the ark was the tangible presence, if you will, of God himself. The reason this matters is because God was saying, too many times we measure our blessings by what we get. And he's saying, I want you to start measuring what I'm going to do by who you get. See, we're so accustomed to pursuing something that ends in something tangible. It's a what. But the Ark of the Covenant is representative of a who. Now watch this. Don't move until you see God move. Now, let me tell you why this matters. The reason why this matters, I hope y'all can handle this. I hope y'all can handle this. Let me say it one more time. Don't move until you see the ark. The ark was the tangible, representative, symbolic presence of God. Don't move until you see God. Now watch this. Don't move until God is clearly out front. One more time. Why does it matter, Pastor? Because God cannot be behind something until he is first in front of it. And I think too many times this is the adjustment we need to make. The adjustment we need to make is I can't be out front. It can't be about me taking the first step. I've got to recognize that what matters is God being out in front. I've seen this in my life so many times. We want God to be behind our marriage, but he was never out in front of it. We ask God to be behind the things I'm trying to do in my ministry, but he was never out in front of it. He wasn't the one that told me to go. He wasn't the one to tell me to do it. He wasn't the one to tell me to be there. And now that I'm there, I want him to be behind what I'm doing. And I'm here to tell you, God is not going to be behind anything he wasn't in front of first. The real work, watch this, follow the ark. This is your adjustment. God was saying to them, the real work is on the inside. The ark mattered because of what was in the ark. Y'all, the ark mattered. The ark that was made of the acacia wood was this incorruptible wood that was grown in the desert. That's a whole nother sermon for a whole nother time. And what God is saying is, I want you to pay attention to the ark, not because of the wood of the ark or the exterior of the ark, but because of what's on the inside of the ark that matters. He was really getting them to try to understand that they are built for what they are about to encounter. And I don't know who I'm preaching to, but I want to tell you the way may get a little rough and things may get difficult. And you may have some moments of temporary setback, but listen to your pastor as I speak over your life. You are built for what you are about to encounter. You can handle this. God has put some stuff on the inside of you. God has put some stuff to address every failure. He put some stuff to address every famine. He put some stuff to address your future. Understand that every part of you can handle what you're about to encounter. Second thing the text teaches us, y'all, is my faith. Everybody say my faith. My faith results in adjustment. See, let me just sit for one moment on this. When you and I really have faith, I'm willing to make adjustments in areas that I used to be dug in about. When I'm used to God working in one specific way and one specific way only, where I'm used to working with a certain subset of people. My faith will drive me to make adjustments. Maybe this is a big church, but your faith will cause you to make the adjustment. Maybe you're not the one in leadership anymore, but your faith will cause you to make the adjustment. Maybe you can't do all the things in your body that you're used to, but your faith will cause you to make some adjustments. By faith, we're going to take this mountain. By faith, we're going to cross this river. But there's a third thing the text teaches. The third thing the text teaches is faith reaches my attachments. Faith reaches my attachments. There shall be, verse 4, a distance between you and it, about 2,000 cubits in length. Do not come near it, in order that you may know the way you shall go. Oh boy, watch this. I feel the Lord ministering this. Let me read it to you. He says, for you have not passed this way before. You've not passed this way before. I don't know who I'm talking to. God is saying there's been some stuff you've been so attached to. Some ways you're used to working. Some people you're used to working with. Some ways you're used to doing it. The schedule you're used to having. And God is saying, I've got you in a place as we enter into 2022 where your faith is going to have to reach your attachments. And the thing that you used to be attached to, God is saying no more. Oh, God, the people that you used to be attached to, God is saying no more. The systems that you used to be attached to, God is saying, somebody shout no more. Come on, somebody tell somebody in your house, no more. The way I used to go about things, no more. The way I used to resolve my problems, no more. The way I used to get mad and walk away and quit, no more. God is saying your faith has got to reach your attachments. In other words, family, shift your way of operating. Y'all, for the first time, they are following the ark and not the pillar of cloud. They look at the ark and not at the river. Ooh. See, if I'm looking at God, I don't need to be looking at my obstacle. And sometimes we drown in the river because I take my eyes off of God and I fixate on my problem, on my obstacle, or the water. He's saying your faith has got to reach your level of attachment. Watch this, watch this, watch this. Why, Pastor Gaillard? Because you have not gone this way before. The end of verse 5, the end of verse 4 rather, for you have not passed this way before. Are you ready for this prophetic word? I hope you can handle it. God is telling me to tell Word Tabernacle Church. God is telling me to speak over our life that you are about to enter a season of first times. First times are going to be inevitable for you. You're going to be a little nervous. You're going to be a little scared. You're not really going to know what's going to happen because you've not passed this way before. You've not had this conversation before. You've not done ministry with this person before. You've not worked together before. You've not tried this before. And God is saying you better get ready, get ready, get ready for an inevitable first time. Get ready, get ready, get ready for God moving in a way you've never seen before. Get ready, get ready, get ready for God moving in a first time in your life. God is going to get us to a point to understand that to get where I have not been before takes doing what I have not done before. I'm more excited, and I didn't know that I would be because, to be honest, as we wound down 2021, I kind of had the air, taken out of me, like a gut punch when we had to go back to eCampus only. And then I started over the last week, ever since the E4 conference. And listen, y'all, I'm going to tell y'all, if you have not taken the time to go on our YouTube channel and view some of that information, I want to encourage you to do that and talk to people about it. Once this E4 conference finished, I sensed God speaking. And I sensed God telling me that we were going to enter into a season of doing things we had never done before. And I was like, God, I don't want to fail. I don't want this thing to fall apart. I don't want us to have gone so close and now everything is going to be wasted. And God is like, no, son, I want you to tell my sons and daughters that first times are inevitable and they are going to enter in, just like Word Tabernacle Church, you are about to enter into some firsts. Y'all, let me say it one more time. To get where I have not been before is going to take doing what I have not done before. I was, y'all may have seen this post. I was so convicted by Dr. DeForest Soares. Y'all know I'm a straight Dunkin' Donuts coffee drinker. And I went and bought coffee at Sam's Club right after he got done ministering. And I bought Members Mark or whatever the store brand was. And I was like, and I'll be honest with you. I was like, well, I'm not broke. I can afford Dunkin' Donuts coffee. That's not the point. The point is, I want you to get this. I'm trying to go where I've never been before. And in order to get there, I have to do a series of things I've never done before. And maybe it's as simple as spending less money for a cup of coffee. Y'all, the text is saying to you and to me, you have not passed this way before. To get through what I've not been through before is going to take me doing things in ways that I've not done them before. And so before you give up, before you say it can't happen, before you throw in the towel, before you walk away, shift your way of operating. Let me go back to the beginning of the sermon. Don't just try something. Now he's saying try something new. Try something different. Try something you've never tried before, because your faith has got to reach your attachments. But there's a fourth thing. I'm almost done, y'all. Hang close. But there's a fourth thing. My faith will rally my ambition. My faith will rally my ambition. It says in verse 5, then Joshua said to the people, everybody say, consecrate myself. He says, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. I'm going to say that one more time so you can get it in your spirit. Consecrate yourself, for tomorrow he will do wonders among you. One more time for the people way at the end of the house that's partly paying attention. Consecrate yourself, for tomorrow, everybody say tomorrow, consecrate yourself, because tomorrow God will do great things. Pastor, why does this matter? It matters because God is not doing wonders among them until first they consecrate themselves. And see, we live in such a way where we want the miracle, we want the breakthrough, but we don't want the consecration. And God is saying, if you're really serious about crossing this river, then your faith is going to rally your ambition. Your faith is going to say to you, live better than you've ever lived before. Your faith is going to say, take care of your dirt. Your faith is going to say, take care of your loose ends. Your faith is going to say, start working on the stuff that's not right. See, when you really get faith and you recognize God is calling you to do something, let me tell you what it does. It motivates you to live better. It rallies your ambition to say, man, I want to be the best James Gaillard I can be. When I see God moving on behalf of Word Tabernacle Church, and I see him moving on behalf of our staff, and I see him moving on behalf of our members, it makes me want to live right. It makes me want to do right by him, because your faith will rally your ambitions. I'm concerned about folk that want wonders without consecration. That they want God moving and doing wonderful things, but they have not gotten to the point of desiring to be clean. God, who am I talking to? Everybody say, I desire to be clean. See, when faith rallies your ambition, it rallies your desires. I want to be the best husband. I want to be the best wife. I want to be the best entrepreneur. I want to be the best singer. I want to be the best musician. I want to be the best human being that I've ever been for God. I want to be faithful in my pursuits. I want to finish what I started. I want to keep my word. I want to live honorably among people. Faith will rally your ambitions, and you will have the desire to be clean. Not only will you have the desire to be clean, but secondly, you will make the decision to avoid anything that's keeping you from being consecrated. Woo-hoo. We have to decide. Somebody shout, decide. I have to decide to avoid. I've got to decide to abstain from any sinful allurement. This is why we are told in 2 Timothy that I got to flee youthful lust, and I've got to pursue righteousness. I've got to make up in my mind that if there's anything pulling me away, I got to decide that I'm going to avoid that. I got to decide that I'm going to abstain from that. This issue is about desiring to be clean. It's about deciding. It's about developing the discipline. Everybody say the discipline. It's about developing the disciplines of prayer and the disciplines of devotion. And if you hang with me next week in Bible study, I'm going to unpack all of that. And it's about dedicating myself to Bible study and dedicating myself to the word and then delighting myself in the Lord. Psalm 37 tells us, delight yourself in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart. I say a final thing and I'm done preaching. Final thing, y'all, is that this faith I'm talking about, it's the faith that by faith you're going to cross this river. Faith removes my anguish. Faith removes my anguish. In verse 9, Joshua said to the people of Israel, come and listen to the words of the Lord your God. Joshua said, here is how you shall know that the living God is among you, and that he will without fail drive out from before you. And I won't even read all the ites. I already read them. Understand what is at stake here. All of the ites, Canaanites and Hittites and Perizzites and Girgashites and Jebusites, the Amorites. The ites were the hidden ghosts that Israel failed to defeat 40 years ago. And if we were to be honest, as I minister today, many of us have hidden ghosts that come back to trouble us, come back to haunt us. And y'all, God is teaching us, y'all, that he is going to move in such a way that everything that I failed at in the past, everything I have anguish about in my past, all the years of past spiritual defeat, all the years of failure, all the years of death, all the years of cancers, all the years of wandering, all the years of wandering without a vision, God is going to restore it. Pastor, you just want to make me shout. No, I do want you to shout, but that's not the reason why I'm telling you. The reason why I'm telling you is because he makes it clear to them. Well, when you look at chapter 4, real quick, verse 19, he says, the people came up out of the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and they encamped at Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones which they took out of the Jordan, Joshua set up at Gilgal. Somebody type in Gilgal. Gilgal. Pastor, why does that matter? I'm done, y'all. I'm done. Let me tell you what Gilgal means. Gilgal means the reproach has been rolled away. The reproach has been rolled away. Everything. See, when God brought them across the river, then God rolled away all the things of their previous failure. And I don't know who I'm talking to, but if you would have the faith to trust God with your life beginning today, if you would have the faith to say yes to God today, if God is this is what God is saying to you. Yeah, you spent 40 years saying no. But if you say yes today, I'm going to roll away the reproach of those 40 years. All the loss you encountered, all the years you didn't serve me, all the times you didn't obey me. God is saying, I'm about to offer you a redemption today. But you've got to be willing to step out in faith. All the times you didn't serve, God is saying, serve me beginning today. And I'm going to roll away the reproach from all the years in the past. See, your faith and my faith will remove past anguish. Who am I preaching to? I'm done. The years of spiritual defeat, have you had it? Have you had years of wandering? Have you had years of living your life without a vision from God? God is saying, if you have faith to help me let you cross this river you're at, that faith is going to result is going to remove the anguish of your past. Everything that has all the weight of your past, God says, I want to lift it. But in order to do it, you have to receive his free gift of salvation. I'm done preaching. I want to say two things. First of all, if you're here today, you're watching online without a personal relationship with the Lord. You're here. You don't have a church home where you're growing and serving. You're watching online. And you're thinking, man, I would never. You're thinking, man, I would never join a church digitally online. Let me tell you, he's offering you a gift. The thing about a gift is you have to be willing to receive it. And here's the thing that I want you to get. Whether you are in a sanctuary with me, whether you're at home, whether you're in a nursing home, whether you're listening to the radio, whether you're in a common area at a prison or a jail, whether you're sitting with family or friends, the gift is still being offered to you. You still get to receive it right where you are. The gift is Jesus. It's his salvation. He loves you enough to have sent his son, God did, his son Jesus to die for you, so that you might have life forever, eternal life. So if you're watching today without a personal relationship with the Lord Jesus, without a church home where you're growing, I'm going to tell you, God is about to allow Word Tabernacle, the members, the church, to experience a series of firsts. God is going to do for you and in you what he's never done before. God is going to move in a way that he has never moved before. So, if you don't have a church home where you're growing and serving, you're ready to be opened up for God moving in a new way. Pastor, what do I need to do? Whether you're unsaved, whether you don't have a church home, would you type in? There's people monitoring right now where you can type in on the link. I want to be saved. I want to have a church home where I'm growing and serving. There's QR codes being posted. You can just scan that QR code. Right there will be all the information you need. And so before I pray and release us to go home, I want to encourage you who are already saved, those of us who already have a church home where we're growing, maybe Word Tabernacle is that church home. I want to pray today that you get to a place of saying, Pastor, this is my year where I am going to let my faith be proven by my activity. Are you here not serving anywhere? Would you today make the decision? Would you respond to this sermon by simply saying, I'm going to let my activity is going to show? Well, would you make up in your mind today that your faith is going to rally your ambition? I want to be better. If you want to be better, just slip up your hand and say, I want to be better. Tell somebody in your house so they can watch your walk. I want to be better. I want my ambition to be rallied. You're here, and your faith is about to reach your attachments. God is saying, I'm about to shift your way of operating, about to do a thing I've never done before. So I want to pray for us. I want to pray for our offering. Thank you for your giving. Thank you for your generosity. We serve a generous God, and I would ask that you in turn would also be generous. If this ministry is blessing you by the word and you're being strengthened, and you find yourself saying, that was a good word. If you find yourself saying, I can use that. If you find yourself saying, that made sense. If you find yourself using the word that you received throughout the week, would you go ahead and give an offering? Would you go ahead and partner alongside of us? If you're a member, praying that you would give your tithes and offerings. But if you're not a member, would you consider partnering with us? If you want to be a partner, you can click that link and say, hey, I want to be a partner. I want to be a part of all that God is doing at Word Tabernacle Church. Let me pray with us, and we'll go home. Lord, thank you so much for your word today. Thank you for the opportunity, God, to gather. And God, I am speaking over our congregation right now that by faith, we are crossing this river. By faith, that husband and wife is crossing the river of a struggling marriage. By faith, that young person is going to endure even though they don't have all the support they thought they should have at home. By faith, somebody's going to figure out a way to get back to school and graduate. By faith, that small business is starting. By faith, someone is joining the church. By faith, someone is receiving Jesus. And so, God, I thank you that you are giving us the strength to cross our rivers. Would you help my faith be evidenced by my activity? God, would you help my faith result in the adjustments, and would you help it reach the attachments of my life? And then, God, would you bless our exit offering? Would you use it for the building of your kingdom, the spread of your word, the glorifying of your name? I want to thank you for first-time people that are giving for the first time. I want to thank you for partners who, God, they're not members, but they believe in this work. They benefit from the work. They are strengthened by the work. They are encouraged by the work. They are enlightened and empowered and equipped by the work. And as a result of that, they are partnering to be a part of the work. I thank you for every member and every partner. Use this offering for the building of your kingdom, the spread of your word, the glorifying of your name. Of all that you're doing, we give you praise. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks for being in church. Have an awesome week.
To the darkness you give hope, and you